I love it when a game lies to me. Take Spec Ops: The Line. On the surface, it's just another brown military shooter, but as the story unravels, it deconstructs the very idea of a hero. There's nothing quite like the rush of thinking you're on a predictable path, only for the narrative to veer off into the unknown. I want to talk about a masterpiece that pulls this trick off better than most any other game that I can think of, and managed to fool me over and over again.
Expedition 33.
What's up, you beautiful beasts, and welcome to the video where I'm gonna cut right to the chase. Expedition 33 is a phenomenal game with incredible combat, music that'll change your life, and a story I'll likely never forget. If you've not played it, this video, go and play it. For those still here, I recently rolled credits for the first time on this phenomenal game while I was playing it over on Twitch, and I want to discuss my thoughts on it. I want to talk about my journey through it and how Expedition 33 absolutely made me hate myself. I've got a lot of things that I adored about this game, and a couple that pissed me off. I'll be curious to see if you agree or disagree. Before we begin, why don't you like and subscribe for those who come after? And consider this your spoiler warning for Clair Obscure Expedition 33. If you want to watch me play through games live, you can join me here or over on Twitch, links for which are in the description below. Expedition 33 is a turn-based RPG in which you play the titular 33rd Expedition as you voyage across the fractured lands heading towards a giant monolith below which a godlike figure sits. This figure is known as the Paintress. This enigmatic giantess stirs once a year, causing the number on the monolith to count down and everyone of that age to be erased, or as the game calls it, gommaged. Every year, an expedition sets out for the monolith in hopes of defeating the Paintress and putting an end to this slow and inevitable death of humanity. Sadly, the previous 67 expeditions, each of which had their own unique quirks, such as riding a hot air balloon or swimming to the monolith naked, have all failed. And we join Gustav as he prepares to say goodbye to Sophie, his ex-girlfriend, on the day of the gommage and the launch of the next expedition. Immediately, the game sets you up for heartbreak, and holy shit, did it break my heart. The strange thing is, I didn't even know these characters, but the slow walk down to the pier, mingling with the NPCs and working through the tutorial, I learned everything I needed to know. How so much remained to be said between Gustav and Sophie, but there was no time for it. The bittersweet celebration of life ends with swaths of people all just dissolving into petals. It's incredibly haunting, even more so by the fact there's no fighting back. There's no struggle or attempts to thwart what's happening in that moment. No begging or bargaining, just this weird acceptance in the moment. It's incredibly unsettling as we get to watch people simply sit and wait before drifting away into nothingness. Straight away, it puts me, as the player, on the back foot. It feels like you've lost before you've even begun to fight back. But maybe, just maybe, you can stop the next one. And thus, the expedition begins. We've met a few of the main characters by now, such as Lune and Mael, but we'll talk more about the characters a little bit later in the video. For now, they're en route to the mainland to begin their journey, and as soon as they make landfall, they're set upon by a mysterious old man flanked by strange creatures known as Nevrons. You get to watch as the other expedition members are all slaughtered and cut through in quite a graphic beach landing, almost like a fantasy version of Normandy. The game spares no time whatsoever in crushing you into the dirt. Eventually, after all the screaming has stopped, you come to as Gustav. He has miraculously managed to survive and begins to wander these strange and formidable lands, making his way to the planned meeting points, hoping that he might find others, only to suffer a mental break as he comes across hundreds of corpses of his fellow expeditioners, all beginning to meld into each other in this surreal crimson visage. It was at this point I started to suspect that something weird might be afoot. You see, a lot of the words and terminologies used by the characters felt very painterly. Your abilities are known as Pictos and Luminous, all powered by Chroma or something like that. I never did quite get a solid grasp on the terminology, but I think I got the foundation at least. Either way, this, coupled with the utterly surreal nature of the landscape and the Nevrons, made me start to think I was in a world of imagination, and they do a very good job of seeding this as you play. Expedition 33 does this fantastic thing of giving you easy wins. Anyone who is slightly observant might start to see patterns or familiar images appearing in other areas of the game, which gives you what I like to consider an easy win. A little nugget of story that you figure out ahead of time, making you feel smart and that you're understanding the narrative, only for it to then pull the rug out from underneath you as you learn the truth isn't quite what you thought. Anyway, Lune appears before Gustav can do anything stupid, and they pair up, continuing on their journey. It's a strange land with stranger creatures, as the next area is this beautiful underwater world without any water. We finally find Mael, who takes us to what seems to be an almost alternative dimension within a mansion. It's very weird, and I genuinely worry if players might have fallen off at this point because of how confusing it actually was. I, on the other hand, was desperate for answers as to what the fuck was actually going on. To continue this bath salt fueled dream, Mael introduces you to a sentient paintbrush called a Gestural, which culminates in you going to their village and finding another party member, CL, my second favorite character. You don't need to guess who my favorite character is though, because he's everybody's favorite character. The Gestural are this weird warrior race who are effectively immortal, or sort of. Again, lots of weird questions. One of the things that Expedition 33 does really well is allowing the player to interpret what they're shown in their own way. It's genuinely brilliant because you never stop talking about this game. The moment you meet someone who's played it, you need to know what they thought about certain parts so you can compare notes. It's fantastic. Onwards with the journey, we meet the best character in the game, bar none, and anyone who disagrees can fight me. Allow me to introduce you to my pal, Esquier.
Bonjour, mes amis.
I don't need to explain why he's the best, he just is. Plus, having a sentient pillow along for one of the most emotionally taxing journeys we could go on is just perfect. Esquier acts as our mount, allowing us to travel across the map and arrive at our next location, where the game finally shows its true colors. Up to now, it's been dark, perhaps brutal, but we've not seen just how deep the despair goes until the mysterious man appears again. Mael and Gustav, adopted family, are torn apart as Gustav is brutally killed before her eyes.
It's more about...
Holy fuck!
There's no pomp, there's no circumstance, it simply happens, and holy shit does it come out of left field. You see, Gustav is voiced by Charlie Cox, who some of you might know as Daredevil, and he's certainly not a small name by any means. He's set up as the main character who made the device called a Lumia converter, allowing you to be as strong as you are. for all intents and purposes, he'll be the anchor to the story with interchangeable party members based on personal preference, right? I mean, that's how these games usually go. Fuck no, he's dead. There's no do-overs, no go and collect this item to revive him. Gustav has been airifed. This is maybe one of the biggest subversion of expectations the game will throw at us. This one action cemented Expedition 33 as a game I needed to finish. I needed answers, and when I got my answers, I felt like an utter piece of shit by the time the credits rolled. Now, I am going to skip the rest of the plot because I'm not here to recount the entire story, but I did want to make a specific point as to why this game had me by the throat. It's not a long game unless you make it long, but it did a great job at keeping my interest, apart from one little bit, which I'll cover later. But not only is the story incredibly compelling, creating this continual question and answer loop as you grow more and more invested, but the combat goes so damn hard. While my personal preference is the combat of things like God of War or Spider-Man, Expedition 33 made me lean forward and lock the fuck in. I had to learn parry timings and ability windows while looking at which Pictos and Luminas synergize with the character's abilities, and because there's no real cap on how strong you get, you can hit incredibly high numbers fulfilling such an epic power fantasy. But there will always be something out there that can ruin you. Although I do have to be honest, it was a little bit frustrating to run into what looked like a normal enemy just a little bit off the beaten path to find out that they're actually some lost version of Exodia that proceeds to show me what my own asshole looks like. Pairing with what I said earlier, the combat does have some of the most beautifully choreographed animations. I ended up trying different abilities just to see them. It also helps that as the game progresses, it slowly introduces extra mechanics to add this fresh layer. It does, however, seem like Mael got the most overpowered abilities in the game, and I was confused as to why, but as the story unfolded, it even answered that question. And with that in mind, let's go back to the story, because I do have just a couple of gripes with it. There's some obvious ones that I hear a lot of people talking about, such as how quickly the party trusts Verso, Gustav's replacement character, even after his multiple admissions of fairly impactful secrets that he'd been hiding, including a huge one towards the end of the game. This, coupled with the illusion of player choice giving you options during dialogue scenes that, even though they seem impactful for the moment, actually mean nothing. Like I say, you can straight drop a nuclear-sized bomb in one option, and it's brushed off like you just admitted to sneaking the last cupcake. But one of my biggest irritations, the stone in my shoe, is having to do the camp checklist over and over. Now and then, you go back to camp, and it's then a case of going from party member to party member and spending time with them. They're interesting scenes full of exposition and growth, but it felt like I was ticking boxes. I'd have much preferred if they borrowed Baldur's Gate's style, in which now and then a party member comes over to you and asks for a quick word, and that leads to a fun little scene. It was a great way to break up the standard gameplay loop and add a fun little bit of secondary exposition for each of your party members. But in Expedition 33, I often found myself for hours at a time in camp, having to go through multiple conversations that I may have missed earlier. Although it did irritate the shit out of me, I was able to put all of this to one side as the journey had enthralled me. Learning about each unique party member and how their life was impacted by the Gamage, how this journey is changing them, and seeing how they reacted or didn't to big revelations. They all felt personable and fun. Even the odd Monaco had some amazing moments with some fantastic dry line delivery.
No distraction, son. I'm really busy beating up strangers.
Lune is trying to follow in the footsteps of her parents, while CL is a farmer turned teacher who lost not only her husband, but her unborn baby. Esquier is the friend who appears exactly when you need him to and is incredibly fun, learning that eventually all these characters feed into each other in one way or another. Now, I realize how I've still not spoken on how this game made me detest myself. This is your final warning because we are about to go into major spoiler territory. If you have not played this game yet, go and play it. Eventually, you learn that the world of Expedition 33 is within a painting. A painting made by the real Verso, who tragically died in a fire. The old man is his father, the paintress his mother, and Maëlle is his sister. His family, the Descendre family, have the ability to enter paintings, and due to the grief of all but the older sister, Clair, have lost themselves in the painting, including Maëlle, who might even be the most lost due to not recalling any of this. As we come to the end of the game, Maëlle must make a choice. You come across the fragment of a boy who sits behind the world forever, painting. The final fragment of the deceased Verso's soul, and you must choose. The fictional version of Verso begs to let the boy stop painting, to let him die, to move on, whereas Maëlle argues that she wishes to live within this world where she can visit her brother, her friends, and so on. I picked Maëlle, and it has been my biggest regret. It is, in my opinion, that I picked the selfish option. I chose to force Verso into an unwilling existence for Maëlle's own happiness. Outside of the painting, she is mute, heavily scarred by the fire, and missing an eye. Even she says it's no real life to live. Destroying the painting meant Lune, Esquier, and the others would cease to exist, but the fragment of mourning would sit here forevermore in a painted purgatory, and I immediately felt like shit. What added to this is the ending scene, which shows all the characters, including the dead ones, back and happy, along with this strange boy whose identity is still speculated. At first, this looks like a happy and sweet ending, but the bitter aftertaste kicks you right in the crotch. Verso walks out onto stage to play the piano. He looks old and tortured, and then we cut back to Maëlle, who is seen lost within the painting. To give a little bit of the idea as to why I picked Maëlle's ending as a knee-jerk reaction, is that I suffer from a chronic disability. It was incredibly easy for me to empathize with Maëlle, given the option of abandoning my pain-stricken body to live in a land of make-believe and happiness seems fantastic on the surface. But when you dig a little bit deeper, you have to ask the morality of the situation and how much hurt keeping this painting alive is doing to other people who exist, whereas people in the painting might not exist. You have to ask if the people within the painting are actually alive. Ciel, Monaco, and so forth may show to have feelings and motivations and goals, but are they sentient, or is this simply just how they were painted? The destruction of the painting would mean they would all technically die. Going off script for a moment, I don't think there is a correct answer, and I think that is Expedition 33's greatest trick. As you consider the other ending and start asking the question to yourself, it becomes apparent that you can't win. And this is why Clair Obscure Expedition 33 is a fucking masterpiece. Since I finished that game, I have not stopped thinking about it. I have had hour-long conversations with my chat about what it meant. It is a game that I thought originally was overblown, but now I realize it is a must play. With that being said, what do you all think? Have you played Expedition 33, and am I full of shit? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe as it helps the channel grow. Thank you very much for being here. I'll see you in the next one.